Big thanks for joining me on TMI Tuesday. We're going to be looking at a very sensitive topic, which is on road to Edo 2020, fears and facts. And discussing this with me from my extreme left, I have the former executive director in charge of social media and public affairs, and also he was the deputy director in charge of the Governor Obaseki campaign organization on communications, media, and publicity. And also he is a chieftain of the All Progressive Congress and the chairman, Heritage Farmers Edo State, Prince Gregory Ogiogua. Thanks for coming, Greg.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Morning, Edo State.
And next to him, I have an articulate and erudite politician, and he is Larry Ogieva. Thanks for coming, Larry.
Thank you very much.
Before us is the issue about Edo 2020, and just recently, Larry Ogieva, the electoral umpire, said there's no going back on the elections, that the date remains. Now, in spite of the ravaging pandemic, isn't that worrisome, that the statement of the electoral umpire that there's no going back on that?
It shouldn't be worrisome when you are prepared, when they are ready and prepared. Yes, it shouldn't be worrisome. The pandemic, like we all know, is here to stay. So whether we are ready, whether INEC declares that the election must go on or not, it's not what the issue. Election must go on. It's a constitutional matter. We have not changed our constitution. We have not changed our laws as it affects elections. Therefore, if they say they are ready, then let's watch how they're going to do it. But for me, as a person, and as a person watching the political scenarios in Nigeria and those states in particular, I've learned a lesson that whatever INEC says should be taken with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
So because we have seen elections being postponed, 24 hours to elections in Edo State. We've seen when elections, even federal elections, are postponed for very flimsy excuses. So coronavirus or COVID-19, coming and being with us will be a very good opportunity for them to maybe, when they see that the people are going to speak their voice and say and do what is right, and want to prove that they are willing for this country to move on to a better place, they may just decide that hence they cannot manipulate it to the favor of whoever they wish. They may even try to change it. So let's watch and see. I still have my doubts.
Honorable Larry Ogieva, you still have the floor. You are a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, and for about 12 years now, your party has been in opposition.
Yes.
What are the chances this time that you're going to change the narrative as a party?
PDP has always had chances. Edo State is PDP, and PDP is Edo State. We have 2 senators. We have 3 House of Rep members. So what are we talking about? In the last presidential election, PDP won. Somebody came out on TV the other day that PDP won the 2016 gubernatorial election, that it was rigged. It's obvious. The people of Edo want PDP. PDP is Edo, and they say PDP. We've seen how the society is being, or the country is being run, and the state in particular is being run. We see how many parties we have in Edo. Is it not ridiculous that we have a quasi 2-party system, and still in Edo State we have up to 3 or 4 parties within a party? So PDP is very, very much ready. PDP is very, very much ready to take over this state. PDP is a rebranded party in very positive sense. So PDP is ready. You saw us do our state congress. Our World Congress is still to the state congress. Did you hear us carrying guns and killing people? We have learned a lesson. PDP, if you look at the leadership of the party as it is today, these are people of proven integrity. These are people who have the interest of the masses at heart. Those who have been at the helm of affairs in PDP, who has really eaten this country, who has really killed the future of the generation of this country. Look at them, they are no more in PDP. We have been able to wheel them out. We have been able to push them out. We have been able to make them know that PDP is not no home for them. So they found a better home. They found a place where they can do, what they were doing in PDP before. What they can't do, they have to move on.
Okay.
We've seen people come to PDP and try to get our gubernatorial or senatorial tickets, and they move out when they see the newer generation like us who are saying, we don't want you here. We don't want a situation whereby what you are used to, manipulation, stealing, corruption, we don't want it. We want a better Nigeria for our future generations. We're not even, my own generation in PDP don't want, for us to have our fat bellies and things like that. We want our children's children, yet unborn, to grow up and be proud of what we have done for this country.
Okay, there seems to be an unending political battle, fierce at that, to a point where there is uncertainty on who takes the lead in Osadebe Avenue come November 12, 2020, Greg Ogiogua. Now, the aspect of the issues seemingly squabbles within the APC and the very, very strong resistance from the People's Democratic Party. Do you see chances of coming through on the election?
You made certain statements. For example, you said very strong resistance from the PDP. I don't see the strong resistance. There is no such thing as any kind of strong resistance from the PDP. The PDP basically is just sitting in the wings and hoping to take advantage of whatever crumbs, emanate from whatever fallout from any internal crisis within the APC. That's what the PDP is doing, because my brother Larry here spoke at length about the personalities who have left the PDP, the personalities who came in to do this, the personalities who are now in the PDP, but he didn't talk about the principles of the party, the policies of the party. That's what partisan politics is about, policies and principles, philosophy, not personalities. The PDP hasn't changed anything about that. We have seen them over the last couple of years, in the last 4 years, run after particular personalities, bend their principles and philosophy just to suit personalities. So we don't see any kind of, when you say strong opposition from the PDP, for as long as the PDP is based on, it still has personality-based politics, we don't have any problems there.
Okay, let's look at the seeming squabbles within the party.
Well, you said you just also defined it, seeming squabbles. What we seeming? Now, how I would describe it as is standard, normal, democratic practices. Because, for example, we very well know that there's zoning and rotation, as a convention within the political system. There's zoning. So, if you understand the political situation in Edo State today, by juxtaposing it to the zoning and rotation, you will then understand why opposition is, internal opposition in APC is at where it is. You will notice that most of the opposition, that practically all the aspirants, apart with, the other aspirants, are from Edo South. That should tell you something. Now, it tells you that a lot of people are scrambling to be able to hold and to grab power while it still is within this geopolitical, this senatorial district. Yeah. It's like a last-ditch attempt to grab onto it. But Edo State consists of 3 senatorial districts, South, Central, and North. And they all have their own roles to play as to who emerges as, the next governor and what geopolitical zone he represents. Now, to any logical thinking person, Edo North haven't produced the governor for 8 years. Edo South will produce the governor for 8 years under Governor Godwin Obaseki. That it will move to Edo Central next for 8 years. Now, the thinking about it is, if it is not Godwin Obaseki, which is not going to happen, let's assume another person from Edo South. He will want to do 8 years. And how will that work with the other 2 senatorial districts who have already lined up 8 years, 8 years? I mean, you know, so you can see that you're looking at people who are putting their personal ambition before societal growth and progression. If you ask them today, if you ask those aspirants, everybody is coming, they're all coming forward on the basis of personality. I am so and so, I did so and so, I was so and so. Ask them what they have, you know, to do, what they have for the education of Edo children. Ask them what they're thinking about the economic growth and progression of this society. How do they want to grow the Edo economy? Ask them what they're thinking about the health system, how to make the gains and advancements that we have recorded under this pandemic, how to make them permanent features within our health system, how to, you know, build a more robust and more progressive society while keeping in place the health and safety factors which we are already imbibing now. You haven't heard any one of them talk about those things. All you are hearing about is politics, and it is politics of personal aggrandizement and politics of personal power. You have not heard of politics of people's power. How are we going to move the people forward? How are we going to move our society forward?
Okay.
So that's the difference, in that we are not worried because we know that we are people-oriented and people-centric. We are centered around moving the people forward. We have not deviated from that, and that's not going to change.
Okay, thank you.
We're not worried about...
let's look at the reason why people get into politics and the recent exodus of the former gubernatorial candidate in the Edo 2016 election and his supporters from your party. Do you see that as a big loss and could affect your party adversely?
Thank you very much, Philip. I just want to go back to what he said, that when I spoke, I didn't elucidate on the principles and policies of PDP. He just said it. He's just talking about PDP. He said the people's-oriented policies. PDP, if you look at the constitution of PDP's constitution, we changed it. We had a PDP constitutional revision in, was it 2016? And if you look at it, PDP still believes in the principles of internal democracy, democracy as it refers the rule of law. In any society where you don't have, when the rule of law is not practiced in terms of democracy, then you have the chaos we have in this country today. When PDP was in government, we saw how the judiciary was treated. We saw when PDP was in government, we saw how the people still talk about PDP as it is today. We saw how the food stuff, a bag of rice was selling for 15,000 naira. Today, how much are we buying a bag of rice?
16,000.
Yes. Yes, I bought a bag of rice 15,000. Even in 2014, 2015, I bought.
Today,
it's like, come on, I just bought bags of rice and gave to the people.
Are there no global factors that also are responsible for that? Larry, are there no global factors that are also responsible for that?
He's a farmer.
And I'm selling for 15,000.
If you're selling for 15,000, I bought in the market for 15,000. I cannot. How many people are you supplying? They are farmers. We are still buying food stuff is so expensive. I was discussing with a former classmate of mine just now outside. If you see the level of poverty in this country, it wasn't caused by coronavirus. The level of poverty in this country is a thing of shame for a country that's rich and powerful as Nigeria, that we still have a government that doesn't even know what to do to feed its people. Are you telling me PDP, I'm not elucidating on the principles of PDP. PDP is a people's-oriented party. That is why it's called People's Democratic Party. We cannot continuously live like this and being rhetorical and being trying to be very, very political.
Okay, back to the question.
So the question is this. For those who have left our party, in terms of what are we going to do about it, right?
Yes, yes. If it's going to affect your party adversely.
How? Come on, please. Come on. You're talking about PDP. PDP is a behemoth. PDP is the elephant of Nigerian politics. PDP is the lion of Nigerian politics. How can somebody live in PDP? How many of them are there PDP? Everybody in APC today, who is so in APC, mention one person in APC who was not in PDP before.
So they all
in Edo State, in Nigeria. Have they been able to kill PDP? When I was a kid, there used to be an advertisement of beetles. You press it, you kick it, you hammer it. You can't kill the beetle. You can't kill PDP. Those of them that are living, it is because they came. They wanted to conquer. But we said we resisted them. What you are used to, those of them that left PDP, between 1999 to say 2012, what was the problem that we faced in this country? People now see PDP as a rebranded party. People now see the PDP as the only solution to Nigeria's problem. Everybody in APC today, even including my very good friend here, that's with PDP. So they all left. And PDP still won 2 senatorial seats in 2015. We went to the House of Reps seats in 2015. A state where we have been out of power for how many years?
There's this fear by some persons in the state that all of these defections we have moving from one party to another seem to be for selfish gains. What do you think of that?
Of course. Look, they all left. They all leave PDP, and they come back in the night to discuss with us. As I'm talking to you, I can tell you there are some of them in APC who are telling us today, but the agricultural aspirants are not the followers. The agricultural aspirants are talking. I don't want to go into that. They are talking. We know what they are saying. So the point is this. PDP is not just an elitist party. We have moved beyond that. PDP is a people's party. Go to the streets. Ask anybody you see on the street. It is not elitist. It's not for the elites anymore. It's not for the bourgeoisie. We know today, the people, you see, in Benin Parable, if a woman does not marry 2 wives, he will never do the better one. Nigerians has married 2 wives. They've seen that the husband they thought was bad is the saint they left.
Okay, do you feel same, Gregory Gogwa? He just made a mention of the fact that there's been some differences in terms of what the PDP brought on board as compared to the APC.
Well, you know, he says there are differences. He hasn't told us what the differences are. I thought he was going to tell us now that, for example, that when the PDP takes over, that they will...
We are not going to that. We are coming to that, right? No. We are not going to that. We are talking about the policies and principles of PDP. Yeah, and you mentioned on that, and I said it, and I also told you that those who left PDP, have not been able to destroy PDP as they go.
Okay, Gregory, you have the floor.
Nobody wants to destroy the PDP. But you just mentioned that the PDP had just rewritten its constitution.
We did this, I said, we amended our constitution.
The constitution of a party does not contain its manifesto. It doesn't contain, excuse me, sir. Yeah, you had your turn. Okay. Yeah? The constitution doesn't contain its manifesto. It doesn't. It only sets out its structure, its legal structure of how the party operates and so on and so forth. So that hasn't told us anything new. Now, I was expecting that you would say to us, that, you know, when the PDP comes to power, that you will empower that, you know, for example, after the COVID pandemic.
No, we are
No, excuse me, sir.
No.
Politics. Politics.
No, I'll come back to you on that. Let him finish, please.
Because the point is that he really asked me that.
Excuse me, you know, you can use your own time to digress if you wish.
Don't put words into my mouth.
Okay, I'm not putting words into your mouth. I'm saying that I expected to hear this.
Okay, let's move away from that.
Debate. I would expect to hear when, you know, you have 2 parties contending, the things that differentiate us, that make us different, or the things that will stand us out. And I'm saying that, for example, APC, at least under Godwin Obaseki, for example, has lifted a large chunk of our community, of our society out of poverty using agriculture. That I am an authority on. I can tell you that. And I can also tell you that it is paying off in so many different ways, because we can see that this COVID pandemic now, it is the food that we planted in the last farming season with the grants and loans that we got from the Edo State government, that we are able to put this food on the markets today and able to deliver these palliatives across the state like that. That's one. 2, look at the education system of Edo State today. When the governor of Lagos State came out and said he's copying Edo State, it goes to show you that we're not just simply sitting down there and boasting that, oh, the APC is the best party, or Governor Godwin Obaseki is the best person. We are putting it into actual practical implementation. It's not just policies of mouth. It's not just audio. Fact. When the governor of Lagos State says we are copying Edo State, we know that even the children with problems, you know, children with disabilities, teachers went and gave them palliatives in their homes to keep up with, you know, the school feeding for those kind of children with That is how a classroom has moved to community. You have our teachers now gathering students, in groups of 5, 10 in villages, and using digital e-platforms to teach them. You see parents downloading stuff on the internet to teach their kids during this period. I've talked about agriculture. I've talked about education. Now let us talk about health. Look at the giant strides in health over the last couple of months, in the last 2 months. Agreed that nobody expected this pandemic. But in the last 2 months, Edo State has ramped up everything from hospital bed availability to the ventilators, to the training of staff, to recruitment. All these things are going to remain as permanent platforms for the health system going forward. These are the things that government has already put in place.
Okay, thank you.
Has been working for the last 3 years.
Thank you.
And will build upon.
Thank you. Lariogiba seems not to be at home with what you just said. What are your observations?
It is no good coming to the on air, to the media, and be demagogic. I don't have patience for this. You are talking about school feeding problem. You are telling us in Edo State that you are using teaching children through the social media or whatever. I'm from a village. I'm a village man. I'm from a local village. I go to my village almost every 2-3 days. In my village, there is no school.
They use radio too.
In my ward, there is no single school. In my ward, in my local government, there is no single school in any local government area where the government is teaching pupils or students, where there is even food given to people. We are doing it privately, and you are telling me on open television that your government is feeding people. Oh my God! Look, this is the problem of this country. We tend to deceive ourselves because we have very peculiar gains. We will clean this country the way we are going. We don't have education in Edo State. He's talking about agriculture because it's benefiting. Because you are getting a loan from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. It's not even the state government that is giving you that loan. It is the Federal Ministry. It was what additional what the former minister under Goodluck. That's what he did. And the APC is happy on that and working on that. And you are coming to open television to tell us that there is school feeding program in Edo State. Oh my God! Look, my brother.
Okay, I think let's
Bishop, please. I'm really on. You see, the point is this. No, don't tell me who is vulnerable, and we are all vulnerable. We should stop this.
Okay, thank you. I think we can stretch that beyond that limit in another time.
Let's go to the issue. He was talking about. I didn't talk about the policies PDP has for the people. The program PDP has for the party manifesto. What is party manifesto, my brother? Let us bring it down. You see, when we continuously deceive ourselves, party manifesto, what does the common man on the street want? The man wants shelter, he wants food, he wants his child to go to get a good education. No Benin man, a proud Benin man, wants his children to start, or his child to start from where he started. PDP is a people's already party. What PDP wants to do for the people, when we, and what God has ordained, when PDP goes to Sadeba Avenue, come September 19th,
November 12th.
No, September 19th.
Okay, for the election.
We are going to start, running this state for September after declaring the results for us. They are going to move out. Let me tell you, so when PDP comes.
No, but even if the election is won by your party, the party in power will still be there till November 12th.
There will be a named party. Don't worry, we will get there. When we reach there, we will cross the river. The point is this. PDP wants to give the people. It's not about talking about manifesto. What's manifesto? Throw away manifesto. There's no what manifesto is.
Okay, I'll come back to you later.
Please don't cut me. PDP wants to give the people food.
How?
We did it before. With food, a bag of rice. A bag of rice for 15,000, 12,000.
You are importing.
Look, a man goes to his house. He goes, instead his wife tells him, we don't have food in the house. He goes to Lagos to bring a bag of beans and tomatoes. The wife and the children don't care where the food comes from. So look at their fed.
That's how our economy ran down.
No, it's a dirty lie. It's a dirty lie. Because by the time you are saying that,
thank you.
By the time you say that, the truth of the matter is this: you said you are a farmer. Now, as a farmer, you are producing rice. I can know. your rice before now, where were you selling that rice to?
Thank you, Larry. Now, let's take it further. There is this aspect about the election proper and the issues about the plan of the state government, in spite of the squabbles that seem to exist within the party. Now, when we talk about projects, when we talk about the plans of the state government in terms of finding ways around the issue about the past administration of Adams Oshiomhole, where there was an indictment by the Judicial Commission of Inquiry. What do you make of that indictment?
That's a legal matter.
Okay.
It's a legal matter. It still bears certain issues that still need to be brought to light.
Okay.
So it would be very, very premature, you know, for us to start to pronounce on this preliminary, this report, as it were.
Okay, away from that, is it a fact that the addition by the former gubernatorial candidate of the PDP in the 2016 election and his supporters brings numerical strength to your party, APC?
If you are speaking about Pastor Sage Izayamu, he's not a member of the APC yet. He's still in the EPM. He hasn't joined the APC yet. As far as we know, he's in EPM. Now, so I don't know what numerical strength he's bringing to where, but he's not in the APC. You know, and the APC's constitution states, you know, the requirements for people who are joining the party, and, you know, the length of time that they have to be members of the party before they can contest for elections. The constitution is very clear. That hasn't been changed. So, okay, in our opinion, Pastor Sage Izayamu is not a member of the APC yet. So anybody who is thinking so is probably, you know, is thinking less than straightforward. Okay,
thank you. Your final thoughts on this as you react over what I said.
I have two issues. When PDP started saying that the special, the so-called specialist hospital, 5-star specialist hospital that got billions of naira was a fraud, some people said PDP were just playing opposition politics. Today, Oshiomhole has been indicted by the Judicial Inquiry. Now, he was saying just now that in medical terms, that the APC government in Edo is doing so well. My brother, if you are doing so well, why would you not start investigating what the former governor did? If you people are doing so well, go to a specialist hospital, you will see paracetamol. If it's government, oh my brother, can I put my shirt for you where I was injured by armed robbers and I went to special, they couldn't even treat me. I had to go to, look, let us not be demagogic. The point is this. Look, go ahead with the question. The point is this. You are saying that Oshiomhole is a judicial matter. It's not a judicial matter. He ran to court to protect himself. The point is this. It goes a long way to show how corrupt this government and the past government of Oshiomhole's government was in this state. How they robbed us blind. I'm coming to talk of those who leave PDP for APC, how they are going to swear the ranks of it. I told you just now. It's when you leave PDP, those that left PDP is a plus for us in PDP. We are very happy today that we have peace. Look, we just did our state congress. There was no fight, there was no war, we are now at peace with ourselves. Okay,
what do you see as a deciding factor in the coming primaries of the PDP?
Oh, the deciding factor is we in PDP have taken, particularly those of us in Edo South, we have taken a decision that the governorship candidate of PDP must come from Edo South. And the deciding factor is this. Edo PDP as it is today, we have about 4 or 5 gubernatorial aspirants. And I can tell you one thing. After the primaries, they are all going to come as brothers and work together as a team. Because we are putting our eyes on the ball. Our interest is to make sure that this corrupt, inept not functioning government, not only in Edo State, in Nigeria generally, we are going to make sure we mobilize the people. Not we, the PDP. The PDP is just a few. Membership of the PDP are very few. But the general populace, the masses, the people of Edo State are going to vote. And we are going to make sure that the vote of Edolites counts.
Thank you for taking our time to...
Every unit in Edo State, we are going to make sure our people, we make sure we give the people the confidence to go out en masse and vote, and their vote will be protected.
Thank you for taking our time to be part of this show, Larry Ogeva. Well, it's still on this morning on ITV Tuesday edition, and we are on the topic Edo 2020 and the fears and facts about it. We'll be taking a break, and after which I will be joined by another political analyst in this discussion. Stay with me.